tough choices in chess. Look at this position. It's black to move, and the queen is under attack. We see it here. So it has to go, but where to? And how do you decide? This is uh, this is what we call tough choices in chess. It's one of the most difficult things to get right, and there's no sure proof way of doing it. It's just sometimes it's calculations, sometimes it's general principles, and it's never easy. Uh, we know the principle of the wrong rook, that when you have two squares to choose between, you always choose the wrong one. Uh, and it's it is just very difficult. The game is Sam Shankland against Peter Svidler from the recent or the ongoing World Cup in the United States. I got confused there by the Indian. Just learned that. It's played in Russia, and it's the United States against Russia. Uh, Peter Svidler is of course a very well known and very strong grandmaster, and Sam Shankland is also pretty well known. He's uh, been doing very well and is, I guess, part of the Olympic team upcoming, and was part of the winning Olympic team for the US that won the gold medals. He is a very strong player, and he did pretty well, even though he was eventually eliminated by Kayakin. Anyway, we're gonna see the whole game from the start. This is the position where Black has a very difficult choice where to go with the queen. What's going on here? Who is better and why? And so on. I can say that if Black chooses one of two squares, he's okay, and the rest is just lost. So let's see. We start with from the beginning. Sam is white, and and Svidler is a world famous Grünfeld expert, probably the biggest expert in the world on the Grünfeld Indian, which happens after knight c3 d5. Instead, Shankland does something weird, but if you have followed recent top level chess, you know that it's not that weird. H4 is getting played in a lot of positions these days, like d4, and this is not an exception, even though it doesn't look right somehow. I don't know, because here we simply have a king's Indian, and if h4 is is the way to prevent the Grinfeld, then this must be the way against the king's Indian, and I'm not seeing many people playing 5 h4 against the king's Indian. Maybe they should. Uh, Anyway, why did Black is not gonna castle? Because then comes h5 immediately. So in the old days, it was general considered that you should just play c5, and you'll be fine in some Benoni's position where White will regret having moved the pawn. I think White has become much better at playing these kind of positions and it's like in the Volga where it's not just no fun left for Black, or the Benko Gambit as called in the US. Anyway, knight c6 makes sense. If you can get White to push a lot of pawns, he will be exposed, and Black's position is, even though it's sort of a little bit cramped, it is also full of potential and dynamics. Knight de2. Okay, so this is the way to play. Castle and f3. And now we have some sort of a same-ish variation where White has played an early h4. Still looks weird, but of course, after something like this, we return to one of the main lines, which is absolutely fine for white. Might not be an advantage, but it's absolutely fine. Okay, but why not play e5? This is supposed to be the problem for white in this position. You don't really want to play d5, um, but you don't really want to play bishop e3. I mean, because it's taking in knight e5 is just doesn't feel right. So instead, you go d5, but then white can go here, black can go here. So what's the point behind this? Well, isn't that just losing a pawn? No, it's not, because after something like this, the knight is under attack. If queen takes, then comes knight takes e4, hitting the queen. And if he takes here, oops, and black wins. He might play something with knight here, but black will play c6 and take and queen b6. Like if you go some like this, then c6 I think is good. Or c5, and if you probably have to take, so take something like this, and here it will be very black has a lot of potential. Back in the day of where Kasparov was young and played the King's Indian, this kind of position, he just crushed people. He has won some fantastic games, and that made me also against Belyavsky and against other players, against Karpov and so on. That made me want to play the King's Indian as black. But not everybody's Kasparov, as it turned out, and I was not. So taking is not good. Bishop e3 and c5 also makes a lot of sense. Just bolstering the knight. You can't allow it, but you can't take it. So you have to take here. And black sacrifices a pawn, which is extremely normal. And rook b8. Open files. Yes, black has gotten, for the pawn, he's gotten open files. And you can say that white has weaknesses all over the place. With the pawn gone sailing away. Even with the pawn on h2, black would probably have some compensation, but with the pawn on h4, a lot more. So a sharp battle is in progress here. Queen c2. Usually white plays, put the queen on a black square in the same-ish structure, but here it's probably smarter to put it on c2. c5. Bishop f2, bishop e6, castle, knight d7, and you can take, but we all already see that everything is pointing this way. Oops, that was and the queen will come here, and black will double the rooks. So black will definitely get a lot of counterplay here. Queen a5, here it comes. Already a knight comes. And well, it's an interesting position. I think I would prefer to be black. And white gives back the pawn. Bishop c4, threatening here. Bishop takes, and e5, shutting down the bishop, which makes a lot of sense. But in the process, white did have to give way with the white square bishop, so the white squares are weak. And still, if black is allowed to just double the rooks on this file, white will be crushed. Okay, e5, rook fd8, exchanging the active rook, and yeah, this is black has compensation here for sure. This pawn is hanging. It's fine, but it's white also have ideas. Black's king is not that safe either. So both have sort of a bad position. I think white is a pawn up, but there it goes, and that was in the in the king position. So both kings are about to get stripped, and white gets the knight into the action and threatens the queen. So where to go with the queen? And here is the problem with this kind of position that are so razor sharp. There's an open file here. Oops, oops, that's the wrong square. Uh, and there is a knight that might jump to any sort of things here. And there's a bishop that might come here. But this guy down here is not too safe either. And the white squares are weak. There is a square here, here, and and maybe even a square here. So everything is going on here, and you have to decide where to go. See, the most natural move is probably to do what Svidler did. I think he's saying, I don't know, should I go? Well, we can start with the candidate moves. Queen c7 simply looks way too passive, and might even play b3 simply. So this cannot be the right move. Queen c7. So there are only three options: here, here, and here. Now, should it be a black square or a white square? Well, then the most natural thing is to say, okay, I got a white squared bishop and I'm stronger on the white square, so I should cover the black squares. And I think maybe this is what Svidler did after he couldn't calculate if the queen should go to a6 or b5 or b6. So he chose the square b6. And we're going to see why that's wrong first. So queen b6 looks good. That's this nasty, nasty threat. Unfortunately, there's a problem. Oops, hitting the rook. And if the rook is taking, you don't have time to bishop b3 because then the queen is also taking. So the rook has to go. And here is another problem. Check. Okay, you can't take that because white will take back with the bishop. So here and this forces queen takes f6 and white is of course winning after that. So you have to go, and here comes the really cold shower. Oosh. And I'm sure Svidler had calculated in a lot of lines that this was not a problem because then he would have this move. But here he realized, uh-oh, if the rook goes to c4, then it's no longer covering this square. So this check, and white wins the exchange and the game. And this is so difficult not to overlook. That the pieces you think are covering something, when they're going to do another thing, then they're not covering it anymore. It's by the way the same problem with bishop b3. White just takes on d4 and then knight d7. So this check means that queen b6 was wrong. Also, it was annoying that bishop takes d8 was threatening the queen. So here he's simply dead lost. Dead lost. Bishop takes c5 is almost mate, and where to go with the. So he took here, take back. That is threatening mate here. Queen takes, check, and white is suddenly mating here. Uh-oh. There's queen e7, bishop h4, or there's queen d7, queen h8 mate. Okay, we will just see it just to make sure you got it. So that was not funny for the poor Peter, who's always a little bit close to getting to something big and just doesn't manage. Even though he won, I think, the Russian championship 8 times or 7 times. I don't quite recall. So let's go back. Queen b6 was a mistake due to this knight d7 trick and bishop take d8. So in this position, actually both this move and this moves are fine for black. After something like this, the position is in sort of an equilibrium. Both are having a horrible time, Those, but it's a very interesting position anyway. So this was what he should have played. I think I would prefer to be black. Also after queen a6, you don't want to take that. It's not so easy. So um, anyway, um, this was what happened. I don't know if there's a general rule. I think, of course, you have to calculate a lot. You can't rely on general principles, uh, but you can probably also sort of see some patterns that this rook on d8 is suddenly got maybe too many tasks with the queen on b6. I don't know. I think it was a very instructive moment somehow. And of course a sad way for Peter, because in this position he's fine. It's the second game. The first was a draw, so he's still in the World Cup. And after this one move, and you're just out. And it's the one square move and then you're just out, and then the tournament is over. You're going home, uh, and then the end. This is the end of the dream. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope to see you back soon on GM Talks. Thank you for watching.